Well, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Good evening, I guess, in New Orleans. Welcome to bet.NOLA.com live from the NFL Draft Day 2. Zach Ewing with Jim Derry and Devin Jackson back in New Orleans, getting set for the Saints' second-round pick. Been an interesting second round so far, guys. It really has been. I mean, the Saints are 3 picks away. The Commanders' pick is in, and so the Saints will be 2 picks away here momentarily. Still a lot of good players on the board. I mean, nobody thought, not that we've talked about it all week, the Saints don't need a quarterback. Malik Willis is still there.
They're going to have to think about it. I mean, it's, like I've been saying for weeks, I'm not a Malik Willis fan, but at this point, I mean, either him, Corral, I mean, at this point, you kind of have to think like a quarterback. I mean, to me, the 2 best running backs that were available are off the board. I like Isaiah Spiller. I think that's a possibility. I really think running back is their top need. But when you go this far and a guy that you were talking about that was potentially a 6th pick in the draft or an 8th pick of the draft is still available here and, the getting close to the middle of the second round, I mean, you have to give that serious consideration now.
Yeah, the last 2 picks before the Saints, the Commanders were waiting on their pick, and then the Chicago Bears at 48, and then it's the Saints. Well, the Commanders could take a quarterback. We'll see what they do. The other guy who's still out there is Nakobe Dean, the Georgia linebacker who was supposed to be a first-round pick. And so the Saints may have a really good talent they're getting here at pick number 49.
Yeah, there's plenty of good players still on the board, and the Saints needs running back and safety. I think you're still going to get really good players, but like Jim said, you got to take a look at this quarterback class because we talked about it could be a possibility that the Saints get the pick of their litter, and now I mean they can do that, and this could be a spot they trade back as well because teams in the second round have been trading back and recouping more second and third round picks. So the Saints don't have to stay put here at 49, although we would love for them to stay here at 49 so we don't have to come back again. But yeah, I mean. And anything could go right now for the Saints, and I think whoever they pick, I think they're in good shape.
We are live here on the Las Vegas Strip from Caesars Palace at the NFL Draft, and just waiting now to see the 2 picks before the Saints are on the clock at number 49. I would have to say, I mean, I know we talked about it earlier today, but with the talent on the board, I don't see the Saints trading out of this spot unless maybe these next 2 picks change things, Jim.
No, you never know. I mean, really, honestly, you didn't get one of the 2 main running backs. And again, that might not be who they're targeting. But with all the quarterbacks on the board, I got to believe there's demand to move up from teams. So it wouldn't be a bad spot to trade down. But I mean, I just don't think they have enough needs to do so unless they just want to. So you don't get a ton of value trading in this spot unless you're trading way down, as we saw with the Colts trading down. I mean, basically all they got was an extra 3rd-round pick out of the deal. I'm not sure you trade down. I think they'll stay put at this point, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did make a move.
Yeah, it's certainly it looks like you're going to get a really good play. Well, the Saints pick
there it is. The Commanders take Fedarian Mathis of Alabama, defensive tackle. So the Bears just 1 pick before. I mean, if you get to Nakobe Dean is not a need for this team. But if Devin, I'd like to hear your thoughts. If the Bears don't take Nakobe Dean, I think you have to take him, even though it's not a need.
Yeah, Nakobe Dean would be a perfect fit alongside Demario Davis. You will have essentially Davis, who's still playing at all-pro level, and then Dean, who can take over that spot once Davis moves on or the Saints decide to move on from Davis in a year or 2. So I think it'll be a really nice pick. Saints have put a lot of stock into the linebackers. That would be my only pushback is that they have selected a lot of linebackers over the years.
No doubt.
But when you have someone like Dean's caliber that was expected to go early in the second round after not going the first round, and now he's available at 49, I think you take a look at him as well. And maybe they go best pick available. I know we talked about it earlier, not necessarily doing so, but you got this many talented players on the board still that should have been off the board long ago. And we just saw the Ravens do that with David Ajabo. I think you go ahead and get those guys on the team and figure it out later.
Zach, you always ask the questions. Let me ask you one. Why do you
right.
think Nakobe Dean fell this far?
It's a great question. I don't know if that's just it's no longer an inside linebacker league, which doesn't sound right to me. Is there an injury that nobody knows about? I don't know.
Well, then somebody would know about it if that's the case.
I mean, he's just one of those guys who seems like he hasn't quite fit anybody. But I guess the other possibility is, does someone come in and give you some crazy deal to come into this spot and get Malik Willis? The only thing about that is, if you look at the picks.
By the way, I hate to interrupt you, Zach, but the Saints are now on the clock. The pick is in for the Bears. We'll find out what it is in a minute. But the Saints are now on the clock, so the pick will be made within the next 7 minutes.
All right. So the Saints, yes, I mean, we'll know soon what they do. The Saints, as far as trading down, you've got Chiefs, Eagles, Steelers, Colts, Patriots. None of those teams need a quarterback, and so if you're a team who wants a quarterback, you probably don't need to trade up with the Saints. That's the other thing about it.
Yeah, but you don't need to trade at all. I'm just saying, I think right now in this spot, the Saints are in a really good position. If they do want to draft a quarterback, we've talked about it a couple times today. I mean, I don't know that you can miss here. I think it's worth taking a shot if you want to. Again, I'll say it again. My favorite's Matt Corral. Although if I had the pick right now and it were my pick, I would take Isaiah Spiller. I think that is the greatest need for the Saints. But again, if they take Nakobe Dean, if they take Malik Willis, or if they take Matt Corral, I don't think any of those three would be a bad pick for the team. And, maybe they will take best player available.
The Bears take a safety, by the way, Jim. Sorry to interrupt. The Bears take Penn State safety Jaquan Brisker. So all those guys are there. Dean is there. Willis is there. The running backs are there. Spiller, but also Brian Robinson of Alabama is there. James.
I don't get this draft at all.
I mean, there are a lot of good players there. If they want a good running back, certainly available. And there's. Boy, I'm excited to see what they come up with.
Yeah, I think this is going to be unpredictable because now, like, all the guys that we talked about that could outside Bernard Ryman from Central Michigan that you mentioned earlier as a wild pick, Zach, everyone else is gone that we've mentioned. So it'll be interesting. This could literally be anybody at this point.
I mean, really anybody. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Devin Jackson gets picked here.
But see, you say that, Devin, that Bernard Raymond is still available, and that wouldn't be a bad pick either. But we were talking about outlandish scenarios, and none of us thought Nakobe Dean would still be available. I mean, you talk about outlandish.
No, we didn't even talk about that. I mean, that wasn't even like in the conversation. I don't think any of us thought that would be a possibility here. So, I mean, now you certainly have to think about it. And Uncle Big Nick's joking about the slow 40 speed that he has, but you're an inside linebacker. You don't have to have fast speed. You're basically a run stuffer and a captain and one of the captains of the defense. And so, in the middle in Dennis Allen's defense, I think he would actually fit.
My outlandish scenario was Christian Harris of Alabama, who's an inside linebacker, and Nakobe Dean is universally more thought of than Christian Harris. And so, obviously, that's what you're going to do.
I'll tell you this, Zach. I do find it interesting. The Saints are taking longer than most of the other teams that's still on the clock. So they may be talking trade because either that or they're just completely shocked with the players that are available to them. And they're like, do we really, they probably had 100 mock drafts and at no point in none of the 100 mock drafts was Nakobe Dean available. And so they probably are either talking about that or talking trade right now. And that's the only reason why they would still be on the clock, because generally when you get to this point, you have, by the time there's three names ahead of you, you've got three names on your list and you have them in order and you don't waste any time. You see most of these teams are taking 2 or 3 minutes before they say pick is in, and their pick is not in.
A couple of defensive tackles highly thought of still out there. Also, Travis Jones of UConn, Perry and Winfrey of Oklahoma. So if they want a defensive tackle, it's another place you could always use depth. Those guys are there.
I
Nick
think
says they're taking
Travis.
Sam Howell. That's
Hopefully not. Yeah, I think Travis Jones could be the pick. The Saints love love to kind of rotate interior defensive linemen. Jones is really talented, but we'll see what happens. I mean, I honestly don't know. This is the first time I'm just like I don't even know where they would go. I mean, there's too many talented players on the board to really pin down who they might go after. So, I mean, I don't think there's any
still on the
safeties.
clock.
The New
I don't
Orleans
think
Saints
there's
are
any-
on the clock. Round 2 of the NFL draft. We're live here in Las Vegas, bet.nola.com, and waiting for the New Orleans Saints pick. You'll see our reaction live when we get it. I think, could they be talking trade? Yes. Could it also just be we need all of our time because our options are a lot different than we thought they would be?
There's no question that's true. But I mean, I wonder who's on the phone, like with trade conversation, and who's sitting there thinking, deciding who would they do. Here's an interesting. I mean, we've been talking about this all day. We need a running back. Well, no kidding. I mean, we've talked about that. It's the greatest need here in the second round. But again, if you're a team like the Saints who really don't have a whole ton of missing pieces, I mean, maybe you do pass on your need here. I mean, maybe it's not an ideal. Well, it is an ideal situation to be in, but it's the selection is a tough one. It's kind of like when you go to the candy store and you see they were almost out of Reese's, but they got one left. Do you take the one left Reese's, or do you take the Babe Ruth, the Baby Ruth, or what do you take? I mean, there's so many options, and there's only one of each one. You can only have one. Which one do you take? It's a tough choice. Still on the clock. Still no selection.
Yeah, Amy Just, our Saints beat writer, just tweeted the Saints are taking their time. They are, but I don't know that anybody can blame them because it's an interesting choice. We talked a lot on our special edition of At the Book earlier today about the best player available strategy versus filling needs. Perfect example.
Pick is in. The pick is in. So they have made a pick.
It is a corner, Alante Taylor.
Oh my goodness!
So they got another corner.
So
Alante Taylor. I
don't get that at all.
He's from Tennessee, and he was. If you look at, and again, every team has its own board, but he was listed as the 8th best corner available today. So that seems like a little bit of a reach in a spot where they could have traded down.
They do this kind of stuff all the time. I'm not going to degrade them or I guess bemoan them is a better word. I'm not going to bemoan them because they did so well in the first round, but I don't get that pick. You could have traded down, and maybe they couldn't find a partner to trade down with. Maybe that's what took them so long. But you could have. I don't get that at all. I don't get that. That's not even a need for this team at all.
Yeah, I mean, now I will say they've had problems with cornerbacks getting hurt with depth. We were a little bit faster than TV. Alante Taylor of Tennessee is the pick, which is kind of bizarre.
It's extremely bizarre. Again, if you talk about needs on this team, and I realize where we are, I mean, that's probably the 5th or 6th on the list. I mean, so even if you're going best player available, I mean, how could you think a guy that's really probably a 3rd rounder on most people's board at best, the best player available here? Again, I don't know if this is a panic pick. I mean, sometimes you get to a point, Devin. I mean, we've seen it before with lots of teams where you have all these options and you swing, and maybe they didn't swing and miss. Maybe we'll all be proven wrong, and they'll be like, "Wow, what a pick that was!"
I will say, Bradley Roby is a free agent after this season. Am I right in saying that?
That is correct, but that's maybe after next season.
Yeah, I mean, but we're also talking about the future at linebacker, the future at running back.
So you're also talking about what you need right now.
The future of cornerback. I mean, if that's
that's not a good. I don't.
We're surprised. Continue to leave your comments on Facebook and YouTube. We'll display the ones that are, let's say, approved for families to display. I don't know that all of them will be, but Alante Taylor of Tennessee is the pick.
Yeah, I'll
for the
chime
New
in
Orleans
here.
Saints?
I did watch Alante Taylor. He gave me more like he played corner at the college level, but to me, I think maybe he's a guy that ends up like transferring over to safety because he played like in a heavy zone coverage scheme. Saints love to play man defense, so I don't think I think the plan with him is probably have him in a hybrid role where you don't have him as a starting corner because I don't think he's necessarily a scheme fit for the what the Saints run defensively because they like to go man defense on third downs. But maybe instead of getting a guy that's straight up a safety, maybe you get a corner that turns into a safety. But still, I mean, I don't know, man. I think I think the Saints like him maybe since they don't have a pick again until the fifth round. I think that he wouldn't be there, but I think it's a little
That's
bit
the
of a
only
reach
thing,
based
Devin.
on his value. Yeah.
That's the only thing, Devin. I mean, I guess if you like really have him super high on your board and you got him as a third round pick and you don't have a third round pick and you don't have a fourth round pick either for that matter. I mean, he wouldn't be there in the fifth round, but still.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's actually a good
they
point,
should have been
guys.
working the phones overnight or something.
I wonder if they were working the phones.
Go ahead, Zach.
If they were working the phones overnight, and yet,
well, if they weren't, shame on them.
If you have the guy, I mean, it took them to the last minute. Obviously, they were doing something. If you have the guy, let's say, I don't know, 70th on your board, 80th on your board, probably higher than that, and he's really the guy you want, and no one will give you value for the pick, which surprises me because if Nakobe Dean is there, somebody's not going to trade up from 60 for Nakobe Dean and get you an extra third round pick.
Something's going on there.
I'll tell you
that's
what,
the part I don't like.
The Saints have they're making it clear who they like players from because this is another Tennessee guy. They got Marquez Callaway. They got Bryce Thompson last year as a UDFA from Tennessee. Yep, Alvin Kamara as well, and then Ohio State obviously as well. So they love those two programs and they keep going back to the well. So we'll see how this one shakes out.
Well,
here's one I find.
Go ahead, Jim.
I was going to say, here's one I find interesting. When do we get a quarterback? I mean, this is what we talked about. I mean, I wasn't necessarily advocating for a quarterback, but Devin and I have, and Zach, you've been a part of it too, for 2 weeks now. We're talking about the Saints don't need a quarterback.
They don't need one.
They don't need a quarterback. I mean, I don't know that we really need a cornerback either, but we certainly don't need a quarterback. Now, with Malik Willis dropping to where he dropped, or, maybe you take a chance on Matt Corral there, I would have been okay with it. But you have Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is going to be the starting quarterback here unless something really silly happens for at least the next 2 years. So Jameis Winston haters, get over yourselves. He's going to be the starting quarterback here for at least 2 years, and there's a good chance that if he plays well enough, which, I mean, let's face it, well enough really just means well. If he plays well, he's going to be the starting quarterback here for a long time, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, look, could they have taken Malik Willis at 49? It certainly would have been good value. But he's a high ceiling, low floor guy that you have to let develop. To me, that's a waste of a pick. Now, this might be a waste too. I don't know. Now, interesting tweet though from Times-Picayune beat writer Luke Johnson. Alante Taylor was a team captain, ran a 4.36 40-yard dash, played corner at UT, but could play safety in the NFL.
Well, then that's different.
So could he move to safety, be a nickelback? I mean, maybe there's your answer. Yeah. Still seems early. Still seems like you could have waited.
Someone posted he's kind of like Kenny Vaccaro, and if that's true, then that makes sense because Vaccaro also was a player that could play both positions, play safety and cornerback. So if he projects to where he can play safety, then that's a different story, and he's going to be in the safety in the NFL because, I mean, that's clearly a need for the Saints. But we'll have to wait and see. Again, they know a lot more. There's a reason why you and I are sitting in chairs in Vegas, and Devin sitting in a chair in his apartment. I'm assuming. They get paid a lot more money than we get paid, and they do this 18, 19, 20 hours a day for the last who knows how long.
Patriots just traded up to 50, by the way, and you could see a trade coming with the guys who are on the board. I don't think the Patriots would be Malik Willis, but it could be Nakobe.
They traded with the Chiefs. Well, interesting because they traded. They didn't make it. Well, they made a trade to trade down, and then picked a guy they could have gotten the third round. So it's interesting they're trading back up to get a guy they probably could have gotten his spot, the same guy.
Well, yeah, they just selected a receiver that probably is he's certainly going higher than what he should be. So Patriots are once again kind of reaching on the pick. They picked Tyquan Thornton from Baylor, and he ran like a 4.28 at the 4-yard dash.
And somebody else. I mean, if you don't trade up unless you got info, somebody else was interested at least. Answer for one team here. The Saints do not have another pick today unless they
don't pick again until the 5th round, correct?
No, number 161. It's more than 100 picks until they pick again. So Saints fans can kind of kick back and watch the draft now. Maybe they trade up. We talked about this earlier today. It's happened before where they package the rest of their picks to try to move into the 3rd round and grab the one guy they want. But at this point, it sure seems like Alontae Taylor was the guy they wanted.
Oh, I think if you're reaching like that, and again, the guy could turn out to be a great player. So I'm saying reaching, I'm just saying where you could have got this guy. But if you're reaching like that, he obviously was a target from the get-go. The same as yesterday when they traded up to get Chris Olave. They weren't taking any chances that Olave would still be there at 16. They went up and got their guy. In the grand scheme of things, I don't have a problem with it. And, you don't have a pick till 5. You don't want to make trades. You're not sure you can make a trade. Then you go get your guy, and then he goes out there and proves that we're dummies and they're brilliant.
Oh, I mean, look, at some point you just kick back and say Mickey Loomis and Jeff Ireland have done this successfully enough times. You just trust their
They've
batting
also
average.
done it unsuccessfully a few times, too. I'm just pointing that out.
But they've got a good batting average. I mean, they do.
They should be here in Vegas because they certainly like to gamble, those guys.
Yeah. I think, I mean, look, yesterday the Saints took the 2 guys everybody thought they would end up with, or 2 of the guys everybody thought they could end up with anyway. And we all sort of did this and applauded them and said, yeah, good, good job, Saints. You did what you were supposed to do. The team got better. And maybe it did, but that doesn't mean it didn't get better today just because none of us predicted it, right?
Yeah, Devin, I mean, just because we say it's a reach, I mean, what do we know, right?
That's exactly what you're saying.
I mean, for the Saints, this is probably who they thought would be around. I mean, a guy that would be around where maybe he was a target for one of their 3rd or 4th round picks, and that one of their 2nd round picks could have been gone. Maybe they did want a running back, but the top running backs were off the board. Maybe they wanted to dip back into the safety class. Jaquan Brisker probably was a target for them potentially at safety. He went off a pick right before the Saints. So my thought is maybe things just didn't pan out. They want what they wanted to for the 2nd round pick, and so they pivoted to their what would have been their 3rd round pick. So maybe it's not too much of a reach. I mean, Alontae Taylor was talked about more in the 3rd or 4th round, and they don't have a pick until the 5th round. So I guess my mindset is that, since they didn't get their 1st or 2nd guy that they maybe have wanted at running back or safety, they went with a guy that they could probably mold into one of those roles at safety. So we'll see what they do. I mean, I like the player. I think it's a reach on paper, but maybe for them, it hit what they were looking for.
Yeah, that's really the only criticism I have is could you have gotten this guy in the 3rd round, picked up an extra 3rd or 4th round pick, and traded back? Now, again, it takes 2 to dance. You have to have somebody willing to do that. And the Patriots just moved up to 50. Would they have not done that for 49? I don't know. But Alontae Taylor, you look at his RAS, his relative athletic score, which combines your height, weight, your hand size, your vertical, your 40-yard dash, all these sorts of things. Yeah, basically it's an athleticism score. He was a 9.85 out of 10, which ranks number 30 of all cornerbacks from 1987 until now. So that's pretty athletic.
Well, it is. But, again, it's kind of like, since we're betting writers, put it to you this way: if you can bet, if you know that the quarterback for the Chiefs isn't playing this week, and the odds don't reflect it yet, and you want to bet on the other team, do you bet it now, or do you wait until after the announcement is made? And it's value. It's about value, and I'm just I again, unless they couldn't find someone to trade with, to at least trade down to the bottom of the second round or get an extra pick out of it, get an extra 5th round pick, whatever, extra 4th round pick, whatever. I mean, it's about value. Even if this guy is that great, I mean, move down 20 spots and get him.
Just to recap for those just joining us, as Carter is that Saints have picked a defensive back out of Tennessee with their 2nd round pick, Alante Taylor. You see his name there at the bottom of the screen. So that is the pick. Right now, the Saints draft class is Chris Olave, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. You have Trevor Penning, the offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa, and now Alante Taylor, defensive back from Tennessee. So,
Zach, Tally 90 asked if we heard anything about Quan Alexander. He is, to my knowledge, he is not signed anywhere, correct?
That's correct. And you know, it's interesting you bring that up because I was just thinking, if the plan is to move Alante Taylor to safety, and he becomes your starting safety, now Tyrann Mathieu, you don't need to go sign him. You've got some cap space.
Right.
Maybe that means you can bring back a Quan Alexander. It means you can go out and get one of these free agents at whatever position you feel is necessary. It does give you some freedom to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Zach. I think that also, like you say, I think that ends the speculation. I would be surprised now if they signed Tyrann Mathieu. That's if you're going to move him to safety or play a hybrid safety cornerback. I don't see you spending $10 million there to do that. So interesting. And now, do you go get a running back in free agency? I think you have to. I don't, unless you think there's some late round bloomer that you like that's going to come in and play. I don't know who's left, but I think that's obviously a major need for this team is running back, and I don't know how you're going to get them.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how much you want to spend, I guess. There are some running backs out there in free agency. Leonard Fournette is he back with the Bucs?
Yeah, he re-signed with Tampa when Brady came back.
I'm trying to think of the other big names who came into the offseason.
Yeah, he re-signed
as free agents. Yeah. Cordero Patterson re-signed. So, looking at some of the top running backs, you're not going to get a top guy. And I don't know that they want to pay for a top guy because Alvin Kamara is still going to be your starter when he's back.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be your starter. But, again, we talked about this earlier. Not only does he have the legal issues that we don't know how long he's going to be out. I mean, if you want to be hopeful, at the bare minimum, it's going to be 3 games. That would be surprising if it's as low as that. It's more like 4 to 6. And then not only that, depending on what happens with him legally, this could be hanging over his head all year long. And, again, he's 29 years old. Running backs start fading when they hit the 3-0. And a guy who uses his speed as much as his power, Alvin Kamara is not going to be the Alvin Kamara you know and love for more than another year or two. I mean, he might be able to play NFL football for more than a year or two, but his peak is now, and it's not going up. So you're lucky if you get 1 or 2 more years out of this Alvin Kamara, and so you really need to think running back. I mean, that has to be a priority. I mean, is Mark Ingram? I mean, I don't even know if he's going to be able to go through another season, especially as a lead back. I don't see that at all.
Saints, by the way, have only 2 picks left in the draft entirely. It's number 161, the 18th pick of the 5th round. And then I don't have the exact number here. It's the 15th pick of the 6th round, which is probably around pick 200. So that's all they got left. So could they use a pick on a running back they like down the board? Could they package those, try to move in maybe early 5th, late 4th round? We'll see.
Well, we're not the only ones who passed on Nakobe Dean and any quarterback possibility. The Eagles obviously don't need a quarterback, and neither do the Steelers, because they just picked theirs yesterday. But Cam Jurgens of Nebraska goes to the Eagles, a center. And wide receiver George Pickens of Georgia, the Steelers, another Bulldog is picked, but Nakobe Dean still on the board. Again, that leads me to believe somebody or more than somebody knows something that we don't.
Next pick on the board is the Colts.
Who traded down? That's their first pick of the draft.
Yeah, Matt Ryan is.
They don't need a quarterback.
Is there, but if they, he's getting older, obviously. But if the Colts wanted Malik Willis, they wouldn't have traded back because there's no guarantee.
Well, the Colts pick is in. The Chiefs are next. They don't need a quarterback. The Cardinals are in. They don't need a quarterback. Or next. They don't need a quarterback. The Cowboys are after that. They certainly don't need a quarterback. Neither do the Bills. So maybe the Falcons get Malik Willis. We were joking about him going maybe as the 8th pick of the draft.
Wow.
I mean, Atlanta could get Malik Willis with the 58th pick of the draft.
And listen, you're all going to hate
be silly at that point not to.
But that would be a pretty big win for the Falcons, I think.
Huge win. Even they can't screw that up, or can they? Devin, you're from Atlanta. Come on, let us know.
Well, I think the proof is in the pudding. They've haven't drafted really well over the last couple of years outside of Kyle Pitts and AJ Terrell. So I don't feel extremely confident that they'll make the right selection here. Although I think they're having a pretty good draft so far, but we'll see if they address quarterback because they might just wait till next year.
I also think if they wanted a quarterback, they had a pick at 38. If they didn't take Willis then, they obviously don't feel that high about him because you certainly can't expect him to be there 20 picks later.
Yeah, but Zach, 20 picks later, if he falls into your lap, what do you have to lose?
Well, if you're great on the guy,
I'm not wishing it because I hope they stick with Marcus Mariota. Please, by all means, use Marcus Mariota as your starting quarterback.
If you're great on Malik Willis, is that he's not going to compete in your quarterback room. He's not worth a second-round pick. I don't care if it's 38 or 58 or 78 or 90. He's just not. Then that's what some of these teams must be thinking. I do feel bad for Malik Willis. He's the only guy still in Vegas who was here.
I will say this, Zach. From everything that I've been reading is the Falcons are really high on Matt Corral. That's about where he's been projected the last few days to go. So maybe they take a Matt Corral there. Maybe they think, when they traded up, they knew they had to pick 20 picks later, and they thought the chances of both Willis and Corral being gone and maybe a reach on Sam Howell, I don't know. Maybe they think they're going to get one of those 20 picks later. If that was their gamble, it certainly is going to pay off in a minute.
Yeah, the Chiefs are on the clock now. The Colts take a wide receiver from Cincinnati, Alec Pierce. 6 wide receivers taken yesterday.
And Desmond Ritter. Sorry, I forgot about Desmond Ritter. Devin Jackson loves Desmond
another
Ritter.
Cincinnati player. 6 wide receivers picked in the first round yesterday. Already 6 taken in the first 20 picks today. So 12 wide receivers off the board. The second of those 12 was Chris Olave to the Saints at number 11. Which just goes to tell you, teams now see the value of an impact wide receiver after what Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase have done the last couple of years.
All right, Devin Jackson, I want your opinion. Just if you're Atlanta, what do you do with the 58th pick? Because people are obviously, you go down the line, people are watching and there are certain teams that Saints fans pay attention to. Atlanta's certainly one of them. So if you're Atlanta now coming up at 58, what do you pick?
If it's me, and if I'm picking a quarterback, I might lean towards Desmond Ritter. Because I think for their fit for their offense, I think he would fit a little bit better and probably would be more ready to play than Malik Willis would be if he was thrown into the fire like tomorrow. So if the Falcons go quarterback, I think for them personally, I would probably go Desmond Ritter if they do go quarterback, because I think that will be the better fit for what they're trying to build. They're not necessarily looking for a quarterback that's going to be a star, but you want to see someone that's more than good enough to keep them moving. So I would look at that, but I would look at running back if I were them. I think running back is a need for them to bring some more youth into that backfield. They do like to, or they're kind of in that school of thought of running back by committee. They do have Cordell Patterson, but he's more the running back receiver hybrid. So I think running back could be the pick for them at 58.
I think we'll stay on at least through that pick to see what happens. The second round goes through pick 64, so we'll stick with you here on bet.nola.com. Zach Ewing, Jim Derry, live from the NFL Draft in Las Vegas. We are brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook always, and today by Tulane Doctors. So a shout out to the Tulane Doctors. Look, this has been a fascinating draft, guys. Malik Willis and Nakobe Dean. What kind of odds could you have gotten that neither one of those goes in the top 50 and still fall?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if they have alternate. You know how when point spreads, you can go move the point spreads and give numbers, but it would be very interesting to see if they had alternate numbers, what you could have gotten, especially if you parlayed it. I mean, it had to be, I would think the fact in Nakobe Dean and Malik Willis to make it this far, you're probably talking 50 to 1 at worst.
I think it would have been 10 to 1 that both of those slip out of the first round. One of those was almost bound to go in the first round, and now you're talking we're more than halfway through the second round, and they still haven't gone. So,
yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I mean, it's head scratching, but then again, I mean, I think there was a lot of, and I talked about it with the Saints. You know, all the hype talk about Kenny Pickett. I think a lot of these teams are starting to catch on with the Saints, and especially like the Patriots and teams that are good, what they're really good at when it comes to draft talk. And they're good at finding someone inside their organization to leak something to somebody who's going to spread it all over the place. Hey, the Saints are interested in Kenny Pickett. And by the way, the Chiefs took Western Michigan receiver Sky Moore. That's a good pick for them. They've been kind of linked to him throughout. I thought he might go earlier than that. So that's a good pick for the Chiefs. But I think teams are just starting to blow smoke. They're learning how to blow smoke. But the problem is, now that more teams are doing it, I don't think anybody's buying it anymore. So, except for the people in the media. So maybe Malik Willis was never going in the first round. Maybe Nakobe Dean was never going in the first round. There's something that we just don't know. And I think whether that ever comes out or whatever, the reason why he lasts that long. I mean, again, I'm old. So I remember when Randy Moss was supposed to go with a top 5 pick and he just kept falling and falling and falling. And suddenly Denny Green picked him with, I think it was the 19th or the 20th pick of the draft. And, you know, we're talking 25, almost 30 years ago now. And boy, you think they got a steal? I mean, so even if there's something behind the scenes that we don't know about or something scouts see or whatever, it doesn't mean they're right. And like us sitting here talking about the Saints pick doesn't mean we're right. Time will tell those things, and you have to trust. But there are 18 teams, I guarantee you, who wish they would have taken Randy Moss in 1990, whatever.
And I think that sort of helped change the narrative of, okay, maybe there are character concerns, but you have to trust the people in your building to take care of that. And sometimes you just roll the dice and say, this guy's talented enough to where if he can figure it out, he's going to be worth the pick. And so, I don't know. By the way, Sky Moore, the 13th wide receiver taken, almost a full 25% now of all the NFL draft picks this year. Wide receivers, 13 out of 54.
And a ton of, and I think we're up to in that ballpark of offensive linemen. In fact, there may be more offensive linemen. I know there were 9 taken in the first round, which is the most, I think, since they said 1968, back when all they did was run the football. So you talk about an interesting draft. So nearly half of the players selected so far have been either wide receivers or offensive linemen, more specifically exterior linemen, tackles. And there have been a few guards and a few centers sprinkled in, but this has been a very tackle and wide receiver heavy draft, and we knew it would be. So that's the one thing that we knew it would be heavy with that. Maybe some of the names and some of the places we're surprised about.
You say that, Jim. There has not been an offensive tackle taken in round 2. 0.
There was a center taken a few
There was a
picks
center
ago.
Taken. Yeah,
and I think there was a guard taken earlier. If I look up, no, there was no guard taken.
Yeah,
so there's only one lineman. You're right.
In the first
so
round,
still
right,
10.
A tight end just got taken for the first tight end off the board. Colorado State's
Trey McBride. Good
going
player.
to the Arizona Cardinals, so he's the top tight end. Falcons now just a couple of picks away. A couple of picks after that are the Bucs. Looking at the NFC South, the Bucs started today with Logan Hall. We told you on At the Book this afternoon, bet Logan Hall. to be the first pick off the board today. That's what the odds were telling us. And sure enough, they were right again. The Falcons took Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State at number 38. That's, I think, the only other NFC South pick today. The Panthers have not had a pick today.
Yeah, they traded away for Sam Darnold.
That's right.
Great trade.
Second round pick. Well,
that is the trade. I mean, that is the trade of the year. Sam Darnold, baby.
The sirens are coming for the Carolina Panthers. By the way, I have to shout out Rich Eisen of NFL Network. When Chris Angel was doing his straitjacket routine while he was like suspended upside down to start today's draft, Rich Eisen says something about how that's what it's like to have been a Jets fan for the last 20 years.
Well, I was still in my room getting ready to come back down here. I was worried, Zach, that was you. You were talking about the zip line yesterday. I thought you might have got caught up in the zip line and it ended up over on top of the stage or something. I was really worried about that for a minute.
I told Jim that I would pay for his trip on the high roller zip line through the Ferris wheel, if he would do it. And he said not only would he not do it, but it's like $35 to do it. He wouldn't do it if I paid for it and gave him, was it $3,500 you said?
$35,000.
Oh, my God.
And I was hoping serious.
I was hoping you would reciprocate the offer because I would have jumped on it for 30. If you're going to pay for it, I'll go ahead and get on the zip line.
No, that's Uncle Big Nick kind of money. You got to talk to him about doing a zip line for $35,000. I mean, now if you want to go do it, I'll pay for your $35 and give you $35. But I'm just glad you didn't get tangled up over the stage of the NFL draft. That would have been that would have gotten more views than anything else we've done all week. Dallas Cowboys select edge rusher from Ole Miss, Sam Williams. So the Buffalo Bills are now on the clock, followed by the Falcons.
What if I put on a T-shirt?
Keep on dropping.
What if I put on a T-shirt that said NOLA.com/Caesars to try to get some signups while I was ziplining over the NFL draft?
You need to talk to your contacts at Caesars about that. They probably wouldn't invite us back. So I would suggest that you probably don't do that.
I don't know. This is
Caesars has been really,
always sells. Yeah.
really, really good. I got to throw this shout out there. I mean, Caesars Palace has been outstanding to us and accommodating to us. I mean, obviously the sports book, we've been partnering with them since we came on in August, but the level that they've helped us here throughout our time, and I mean, it goes beyond what I thought we were going to get. And I thought we would be treated very well. We've been treated way beyond well, thanks to the people at Caesars Palace, as we're about to head back to New Orleans soon.
Yes, indeed.
Well, you're not. You're going to Miami. I'm going to New Orleans
Miami, but not just for fun, not for work. By the way, having said that, if you do want to join Caesars Sportsbook, you can sign up for the app. A special deal for our listeners. First bet insured up to $1,100.
Oh, there's been a trade, boys. Sorry,
Jim. Go to NOLA.com/Caesars to sign up. Now tell us about that trade.
Sorry to interrupt the ad. Well, I'm telling you how great Caesars is, and then I'm interrupting you. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have traded up to the 57th pick. They have traded with Buffalo, so the Bucs are next. It's the Bucs and Falcons next on the board. So there you go. We are.
Could we be talking about Malik Willis here as a Tom Brady
absolutely
heir apparent? Yeah,
100% a possibility here.
Let him learn under Brady for a year or two.
I mean, really, could you think if you like his raw talent and you think he could eventually be a top-notch quarterback, why not? I mean, who better to learn from than Tom Brady?
This would be a doomsday scenario for the Saints because I mean, there's just not a better situation than to learn behind Tom Brady. I mean,
and they hose the Falcons at the same time, jumping right ahead of them.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Is they moved there? They want to select their quarterback.
Oh no, it looks like they're gonna select the offensive lineman here.
Well, never mind.
Okay.
Never mind.
Maybe still hose the Falcons.
But it's offensive lineman Luke Gadecki from Central Michigan. It's a teammate of Bernard Raymond.
What is up with that?
Yeah.
Weird, boy.
Okay. Well, that puts the Falcons on the clock. So let's see what they do at pick 58.
So we're going to stick on through the Falcons pick, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
we
then
should.
we'll react to it and laugh at him, and then we'll be gone and let Devin try to defend him.
I'm sorry, Devin. But look, it would have been interesting though if the Bucks did pick that, because I mean, I guess at this point you need to start thinking about your future after Brady, because this is the final year of his contract.
I don't know that Blaine Gabbert does it for me. He's a Mizzou guy, but
Blaine Gabbert doesn't do it for anyone. Blaine Gabbert and Trevor Siemian probably hang out together in the offseason.
Wow, that is.
I'm just
serious
guessing.
shade.
It's just a guess.
All right, well, let's see what happens here. The Falcons. What's your guess here, Devin?
Yeah, I'm gonna still stick with running back. We've seen two go off earlier in the second round. I think they go running back here. I don't know. Maybe they go Isaiah Spiller. He's a good zone. Yeah, Brian Robinson maybe, but I think they go running back here and add to that room, because it seems like they're just getting weapons and getting ready for whenever they select a quarterback, whether it be this year or next year. So they continue to add weapons around, the offense. They got Kyle Pitts last year, Drake London this year, so I think they go running back.
What I want to know, Devin, is how you're so far ahead of me. How did you? Is it Twitter that you're getting that from? Because I still got Tampa Bay on my clock.
Okay. Yep. Twitter
beats us all the time. Good old Twitter.
That's where I got the Saints pick from before most everyone else.
I mean, Elon Musk is probably in like the 5th round now.
When you got that kind of money, man, you can tell the future.
I mean, exactly.
Well, he's taking his spaceship around the world. He's already in tomorrow, so he is in the 5th round.
Maybe Elon Musk told the Saints that Alante Taylor was going to go in the 3rd round, so they said, "Okay, we got to reach up."
He told him Alante Taylor was going to be, the best cornerback in the league for the next 10 years.
It makes a whole lot of sense. There it is, Luke Gadecki. So another offensive lineman, and the okay, never mind. The Falcons pick is in, so they were chomping at the bit to make their pick, apparently, because as soon as Luke Gadecki appeared on my screen, the on the clock lasted about a second. So the Falcons pick is in.
It does make you wonder, Devin, did the Falcons want a lineman, and that's why Tampa Bay felt the need to jump to number 57? Could be one of the next couple of teams too. Could be the Vikings or Bills.
Yeah, maybe they go Raymond here, and maybe they continue to add to the offensive line. Although they have been putting a lot of capital in offensive line lately, and it just has not panned out. So we'll see who they end up selecting, but they need to continue to add some talent on that offensive line, and we'll see who they go with. Maybe they go interior offensive line here.
Before we get to the Falcons, you gambling degenerates, there's some breaking news. Joel Embiid has got a right critical fracture and mild concussion, and he's out indefinitely.
Yeah,
so
I just saw that.
That hurts the Sixers big time, obviously. That's Captain Obvious statement of the day.
To me, it looks more and more like that Bucks-Celtics series is the Eastern Conference Finals.
There's no question in my mind.
Whoever survives that would be a favorite, even if it is Miami, who would have home court.
I think whoever wins that series is probably a favorite to win the NBA championship.
Yeah, Phoenix or Golden State still.
Well, I got my money on Phoenix, so I'm rooting for them. But unlike most Pels fans,
I dare say, by the way, that if this is
as we wait for the Falcons pick, if you're wondering why we're talking about NBA, we're just waiting for the Falcons pick.
If this is Bernard Raymond, this has got to be the first time Central Michigan's ever had back-to-back picks, right? Probably the first time any MAC school's ever had back-to-back picks.
Yeah.
You're saying Toledo isn't that good?
I said, who isn't that good?
Toledo. Aren't they in the MAC?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably
haven't had any draft picks.
They haven't had any great picks at any point.
Do the shuffle, guys. Let's see. We're here for Saint Schadenfreude now. We're just waiting to see what
we're trolling the Falcons
to trip all over themselves.
We're trolling the Falcons, and then we're going to say bye-bye from Vegas. But
by the way, you got to follow Devin on Twitter. He's tweeting his film thoughts on just about every pick, which is pretty cool. While he's doing the show.
Multitasking here. A lot of these guys are actually coming from the games I picked.
All right, the picks in. The Atlanta Falcons select Montana State linebacker Troy Anderson. Nakobe Dean is on the board, and they pick Troy. And now you know all these obscure schools, Devin. Do you know about Troy Anderson?
Yes, I do actually.
Okay, so tell us all
Remember,
about
he does.
Remember the bet that I did on Montana State to win the national championship or covering the national championship? That it flopped.
Vaguely, you made so many weird bets on so many weird schools that all hit, by the way.
No, we all tailed that one. That was the problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, he played on that Montana State team, and he tested as one of the best linebackers, I think, in kind of in history. I mean, he ran, I think, a sub 4.445. Had really good shuttles.
History.
Yeah. He's one of the more athletic linebackers in history. So I would have never expected him to.
He played quarterback at Montana State.
Yeah, he played quarterback, he played running back, and played linebacker at Montana State. So he was an FCS version of Taysom Hill, essentially.
Okay.
So
they got their own little Swiss
Army
Army.
Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I guess so.
And this is not like I'm not even trying to criticize the Falcons. Nakobe Dean plays the same position. Like
that was my point.
But the reason I say that is because it's not just the Falcons. Everybody's passing on. What gives?
I'm telling you, there are at least 32 people on this planet who know something we don't know. Well, I guess it'd be 33 because Nakobe Dean would know what it is. So 32 general managers and Nakobe Dean know something we don't know at the minimum.
I'll bet Nakobe Dean is not exactly sure what's going on.
Although it could be 31. Maybe the Colts don't know about it. They haven't. Oh, yeah, they did make a pick. They finally made their first pick. Yeah, they picked Alec Pierce of Cincinnati. When are these quarterbacks going to go off the board? Again, and I know we're about to go off, but again, Bills don't need a quarterback. Niners certainly don't need a quarterback. They just drafted Trey Lance. Chiefs, again, don't need a quarterback. Cincinnati Bengals don't need a quarterback. Denver Broncos don't need a quarterback. So unless someone trades up, you're talking now about Malik Willis and Matt Corral and everybody else, all these other guys. Now they're going into the third round, and all I heard was it's going to be a second-round run of quarterbacks. So media talking heads, except us, don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Go us. Go us. Hey, keep it locked to NOLA.com and bet.NOLA.com for NFL draft coverage all weekend, as well as all your sports betting content. It's been a lot of fun, guys. This has been your 2022 NFL Draft live weekend for Bet.NOLA.com. Jim and I have been in Las Vegas since Wednesday, and we've seen the Saints take Chris Olave while we were trying to rush to somewhere that had internet. That was fun. That was actually my least favorite part of the weekend, I think. Then we actually got to the sportsbook inside Caesar's Palace while they picked Trevor Penning. At the same time, the Pelicans were losing, and Jim was trying to focus with celebrities behind him, and he was like Rachel McAdams walked by, and Jim couldn't focus on what he was saying.
I'm sorry. If I got the choice of looking at you two goons on my screen or looking at Rachel McAdams, I'm probably going to be distracted. I'm just saying. I mean, I would think that's a good excuse. By the way.
I didn't turn my head like you did, but listen,
hey,
Rachel McAdams is Canadian. Wait for the CFL draft, okay?
If she's Norwegian, what difference is that?
So we had that, and then today some great weather. We're out here, and the Saints have taken Alontae Taylor of Tennessee, presumably to play safety. I guess is our best guess.
LSU player goes off the board before we go off the air. The Vikings with the 59th pick have taken guard Ed Ingram. So there's your
second
first
LSU
player of the day. Yeah.
Yes, second one of the draft after Derek Stingley, and congratulations to Ed Ingram and LSU. 5 picks left in the second round. Third round still to come tonight. If the Saints should happen to trade back in, they don't have a lot of assets to do that, but if they should happen to do that, we will do a quick live hit from wherever we are. Probably will not still be on the strip. I have a plane to catch in like 4 hours, so I'm going to head off and do that, grab some dinner and catch my plane. But
I got some money to lose. I haven't been able to bet yet.
It's been a great weekend. Any final thoughts, guys? I'll tell you this. The Saints' futures odds have not changed. They're still 5-1 to win the division, 20-1 to win the NFC, 50-1 to win the Super Bowl. But, Jim, after these last 2 days, feeling better or worse about the 2022 New Orleans Saints?
Oh, certainly better. without question. You get a starting left tackle right off the bat. One that, I mean, if I could have picked, I know there were obviously guys rated better than Trevor Penning, but were I able to pick the lineman that I thought fit this team the best and could come in and start and make the impact, he is the prototypical kind of Saints lineman. If Sean Payton had been here, I don't think this first round would have been any different than it was. I think it goes to show that maybe Mickey Loomis had more control than any of us give him credit for, because this looks like the same kind of draft the Saints have always done. They pick early. They pick guys that they really need for the most part, and guys that are kind of talked about high up. They go get their targets, and then we can call Alontae Taylor a reach, and we have. But again, that's a Sean Payton kind of pick. This is a guy I want. We don't pick again until the 5th round, taking who we want. So maybe it's Mickey Loomis kind of pick and not Sean Payton kind of pick, because I'm not surprised at all. And I'd give them, even though I don't necessarily agree with this second round pick, and it's certainly not a need unless we talk about Taylor playing safety, I still give him an A, because Olave is certainly going to be the 2 receiver right off the bat. And Trevor Penning is unquestionably your starting left tackle on opening day unless he gets hurt.
If they hit the picks, then this was a very good draft for them, because they got 2 starters, maybe even 3 starters out of it if Alontae Taylor ends up starting at safety. Devin, your final thought?
Yeah, I think the Saints, they've gone out and like we've seen every single year, they gone out and got the players that they've wanted. Whether or not people perceive it as a reach or not, it's clearly a player they want on their board. And I feel like they're, with who they selected this year, they've gotten guys that they want at certain positions, but you have the flexibility to move them around. The Saints do have some depth on the offensive line, so even if Trevor Penning doesn't work out at tackle, maybe they try him at guard. And then with Chris Olave, you can use him all over the field, and then Alontae Taylor may be a corner or a safety. So I think with the Saints, they gotten some flexibility with their picks, and not just picking a player to stick in a certain position, but if they need to move them around, they can.
All right, this has been Bet.NOLA.com live from the NFL Draft, brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook and brought to you by the Tulane Doctors. Innovative research, inspired patient care, TulaneDoctors.com. Guys, it's been fun. It's been real. And we will see. The Saints got a couple picks tomorrow, but otherwise, next big date is May 12th, NFL schedule release.
Yeah, and it's actually, they're making a spectacle of everything. And if you're NFL marketing people, while I think it's a little silly, it makes a whole lot of money. And there's a reason why there are probably 100,000 people just a few blocks away from where we're sitting right now. So I can't wait to see how they where they put the Saints. And obviously we lost the home game with having to go to London again next year. But how many primetime games are this team going to get? Obviously they shrunk. They lost Drew Brees. They only had 4 total last year. Do they play on a holiday again? I know there are 3 Christmas games coming up this year. So I'm very interested to see. The release of the schedule, even when I was a kid, and they didn't make a big deal about it, was always a big day for me. And I know it's the same way for most Saints fans.
Absolutely. Next time we will be with you will be Monday afternoon at 4:00 for Bayou Bets. We'll wrap up the rest of the draft, maybe talk some NBA playoffs and whatever else catches our fancy. Maybe it's time to talk some LSU baseball as they continue to stay hot. Until then, for Jim Derry live from Las Vegas, Devin Jackson in New Orleans, I'm Zach Ewing. Thanks for joining us, everybody.